what I could talk about. I've been thinking about like spiritual misconceptions, and I thought it'd be a good idea for today's talk. And the first misconception is that we dissolve our ego and that spirituality is about not having an ego or having less of an ego. And I would say in some instances, it is about having a little bit less of an ego. Like if we are someone that that is always looking after ourselves while ignoring the needs of other people or prioritizing ourselves to degrees that it's actually causing harm to others, we probably do need a little bit less of an ego, right? Less of my self-absorption and more awareness of how I'm impacting those around me. But if we're finding that we are constantly overgiving or constantly ignoring our own needs to to serve the needs of others, but to the point where we feel exhausted, depleted, and then we end up being more irritable, more negative, more toxic because we're not honoring our own boundaries or not able to give no's when a no would actually be the most supportive thing for us, but it would also probably be the most supportive thing for those around us too, because no one wants to be around someone who's irritable or negative because they can't say no. And when we are willing to say no, when people are asking for help, when we need to say no, we find that we'll get overwhelmed and stressed and we'll be negative less often because our negativity and our irritability is our inner child saying, why aren't you being the parent that I need you to be? And why aren't you making sure that I'm not being like overworked? Because no one is happy when their battery is on empty and they're still helping and serving others. That makes people miserable. And when our battery is at empty, it's time to say, hey, I don't really have a much left to give to you or to this day, and I need to take a little break. And if we can do that, we will find that we are irritable and negative a lot less often. And if we are constantly overgiving, constantly overlooking our own needs to serve another, we actually probably need a little bit more of an ego and need to be a little bit more aware of what do I need? What are my needs in this moment? And am I honoring them or am I ignoring them to help this person? But it's actually to the point where it's toxic and not actually serving my health and well-being for how much I'm helping this person. And so sometimes in your life, some people, some orientations, people that are more people-pleasing, empathic, more rooted in kindness, positivity, and respect of others, their journey is becoming more aware of, if I treat others' needs this well, can I treat my own needs this with the same level of respect and priority? And their journey is actually finding a little bit more of an ego. And then there's people that are more self-absorbed, maybe are really oriented and constantly doing and constantly trying to strive and achieve and become a great person in this world because of all they achieved and all they accumulated. But they tend to do that while ignoring other people's needs or ignoring how their words or actions are impacting others and are only focused on themselves. Those people need a little less of an ego, and our ego is not something bad. It's not a demon we need to slay. And while our ego does represent also some of our darker aspects or shadow aspects, or the part of ourselves that can take our anger out onto others, can hurt people, the parts of ourselves that desire playing out dark sadistic fantasies with other people. That is also an aspect of your ego, right? Your shadow side, the part of yourself that craves separation from divinity, craves to live in, I'm an individual and my actions and words don't affect others. I'm completely separate from others and I can treat people how I want, or I can treat others like they're dogs meant to serve me, because how I treat others doesn't impact me at all, and all that matters is me. Maybe that's like a little bit more of our shadow side. And all of that is part of our ego, but our ego is in an orientation of, it is either serving your pain because pain is more familiar to you, or toxicity or negativity is what was more familiar growing up than love, care, and appreciation. And we might have gotten a mixed bag, or we might have gotten a lot of toxicity and very little love, or we might have had periods in our upbringing where it was really loving and peaceful, and then periods where it was completely chaotic and harmful and abusive and traumatic. And whatever we experienced the most growing up, whether it was pain and abuse or love and care, is then what we is more familiar to us when we start to enter adulthood, and it's what we start to act and seek out in our own life. And it doesn't mean if we had an abusive childhood that we're doomed to only seek negativity, complication, trauma the rest of our life. And the more aware we become of what is my intention behind the choices I'm making? What are the intentions behind the activities I'm doing? Are these activities serving my greatest well-being, or are they serving greater harm for my body? Right? One of the things people can get caught up in is like is like having, and this is like maybe a little bit more of my orientation growing, like from my upbringing and from choices. Like I got very into pornography in high school, and like then was thought that the only way to connect with people was through sex. Like this is what people who use porn regularly often think is like the most intimacy and vulnerability I can share with someone is through sex. And so I should, instead of thinking, is this healthy for me to share vulnerability and intimacy and physical intimacy with this person, I just chase physical intimacy because it's the only way I feel valued and appreciated. And like that can lead into having very loose sexual boundaries or going to do orgies, which I would say having boundaries in your life is healthy. We don't want, like, when we're having sex with people, it's the deepest way to share the most amount of energy with another person. And if we don't want to become a pool where people are pouring a bunch of different energy into all the time, and we don't have really any control over what energies are coming in. And like if we're going to orgies or have very loose sexual boundaries, the pool that we are might start to get a little contaminated with energies that aren't supportive to us. And healthy boundaries are good. And it's good to be rather discerning of who am I going to be physically intimate and who am I not going to be physically intimate. And I would say the more picky you are and the more you value your nose, the more you're going to the more likely you will eventually find a person where you go, this person is a hell yes, that I want to be more like, that I want to feel the closeness of physical intimacy with, and not because I just crave physical intimacy, but because they have values that fully resonate with me, and who they are as a person blows me away. And we find people like that by being strong in our nose and also becoming more and more like that, where we're not we're not allowing people to dump their negativity, their toxic energy, their dark energy in us through physical intimacy, because we are strong in our nose and we take the time to get to know people before sharing physical intimacy with them. And that's one of the ways our shadow side shows up, is having loose sexual boundaries, or thinking sex is something casual when it's really the most vulnerable and deepest energy exchange you can share with someone. And you have to really think, is this someone I really want to be more like, or am I just craving sex? And there's no shame in whatever we end up choosing, but we would be better served giving no's and meeting our own sexual needs rather than sharing it with someone who's really isn't really fully a person we would want to be more like. And so in And really, what I think this is pointing to in a lot of ways is having good boundaries. And really integrating your ego is, if I'm someone who's a little bit more anchored in how awesome I am and ignoring how awesome other people are, I become more anchored in everyone is awesome, everyone is important, everyone has value. And can I be kindful and respectful to the people around me? And when I'm making choices, can I make sure to make sure that my choices are honoring others? And for me, I've learned in my life that if I make a choice that would impact another, I communicate with them just saying, hey, like, I'm doing this and I don't want you to think like anything's wrong. I'm just making this choice because this is something I need. Like, this is something I've learned in the last year of, like, recently, like, I'm really into ecstatic dance, but recently I've been uh, taking a break because I have an injured knee that needs more rest. And like right before the week I took a break, I had a conversation with the person that runs ecstatic dance about changing some things about ecstatic dance. And so when I decided to take a break from ecstatic dance, I communicated with her and I was like, hey, this isn't anything to do with what's the changes I offered for ecstatic dance. This is just my body needing rest. And I just want you to know I love and care about you and hope to be back soon. But letting people know, like, hey, just so people don't misinterpret, like, oh, like, Luke stopped coming to ecstatic dance. He must be upset that not all the changes he suggested are happening, or this person, like real empowerment is communication and being like, oh, my choice I'm making might impact another person. And people, almost everyone has a tendency, or a lot of people have a tendency to be hard on themselves or make up ideas of why this person is like not coming or no longer in their life. And when we can communicate what's actually the real reason behind our choices, we find that our relationships are a lot more peaceful and harmonious. And it's something I've learned because there's been other activities I've done where I was like, oh, I want to play my guitar, and I stopped coming. And then the person that was running that thing, like, misinterpreted it, and it created some complication in our relationship. And I've just learned that I need to communicate when I'm making choices that could impact relationships that I care about. So that way there is greater peace and serenity in my life. And and people aren't misinterpreting why I'm choosing something. And, we all need to be mindful of, is this an important relationship? Or like if we stop going to a workout class and we've only been twice, probably not something we need to communicate to the leader. But if it's a relationship that we care about a little, it's usually always good just to communicate a little, just so people don't misinterpret your actions, or people don't, I don't know if misinterpreting is the right word, but just so that there's people aren't thinking that you're doing something because of them. You're just doing, and like when you make it clear why you're doing something, there becomes a lot more clarity in your relationships. And so to bring it back to our ego never goes away. You're never going to dissolve your ego. Your ego is just going to get more oriented into serving the light of your soul rather than serving your pain. Mm. And almost everyone growing up in the culture we live in, our egos on some level are oriented to not changing, serving our pain, chasing toxicity. And you can see this expressed in so many ways in society, but just like how many people think like like a good night out is going to bars and drinking and getting fucked up. And not to say that there's that, like, we can't drink alcohol in like moderation, but like bars is like, for me, like I'm sensitive to energy and I literally can feel the toxicity anytime I walk into a bar. And I don't go to bars very often at all. And and like it's an energy of toxicity that I feel in the air. It isn't like necessarily that everyone at bars are toxic, right? But it's a representation of how familiar toxicity is for everyone, like coming into adulthood, and the toxicity in their family then becomes toxicity they search out in their choices, whether that's getting fucked up, try having really loose sexual boundaries, or whatever our patterns or addictions are that we go, I don't really know if this is serving my well-being long term. Like 5 to 10 years down the road, is this going to make me feel more healthy, or is this actually going to something that will probably shorten my life a little? And our goal with spirituality is to integrate our ego into the light of our soul. So then our ego becomes serving the greatest well-being and health within our body, serving being in the moment rather than trying to check out and numb. And for me, I still spend a little bit too much time on technology. It's something I'm working on doing less. And it's been something I've been working on for like a long time, like years. Like I don't have a TV in my apartment because I know that I'm going to be more productive and actually spend time that's actually going to deepen my own like creative energy if I don't have a TV, right? If I don't have a TV, I play my guitar a little bit more. I make sure my apartments I like have different activities that I enjoy that actually serve my well-being, or I listen to like a spiritual talk that helps me teach better or just fills me up with positive energy to then take that positive energy into the next day I'm in. And when when our goal in spirituality is integrating our ego into serving our greatest health and well-being and our greatest respect and value for ourselves by valuing our life, and then on the other end, creating the greatest love, kindness, and appreciation for the people, our friends, our family, our relationships. And that's the real journey of spirituality. It isn't about dissolving your ego and then going, nothing matters, right? I'm God, so I can do whatever the fuck I want. No, it's missing the mark a little. You're God, so be incredibly mindful of how you treat the temple that God is staying in, which is your body, and be incredibly mindful of it's not only you that's God, everyone's God. And if God is your friends and God is your family, how much more loving, kind, and respectful would you be to the gods in different temples? Right? And Hinduism teaches like there's like I don't know. I'm like personally I some of the Hinduists I haven't like really studied a lot of Hinduism, but I like some of their practices quite a lot. And Hinduism teaches that there's like 300 or there's like a bunch of gods. And it's a reflection of everyone in a human body is God, and we're all just at different degrees of remembering it by the level of love and care we give our body and the greater level of love and care we give those around us, because that's how God acts. You want to know how to bring heaven on earth? And I've taught this before, but it's heaven on earth. Just start acting how you would in heaven, which is everyone in heaven are completely aware of how everyone is the light. Everyone is just a different aspect of themselves, and they treat everything with the greatest love, kindness, care, appreciation. And if we can do that down here, Earth starts to get transformed a little bit more quick, a little bit more efficiently, and we start to remember some of our powers that we had in heaven down on this planet, like telepathy, like being able to levitate or fly, moving things with our mind. Even things like bilocating or shape shifting, those are real abilities. And we awaken those by our willingness to serve our own heart and serve the hearts of others. And it's being mindful of our boundaries, being mindful of how our choices are impacting others, and being aware of how I talk to myself and how do I talk to those around me. And if they're God, maybe I should be a little bit more respectful, even if God in that body is acting ridiculous or not handling their body or their relationships that well. Because we never know what journey someone is, and every day is a new day for you and for anyone else, and they one day could wake up and completely change. And the more we treat the ones acting like children with love and care, the more those children are more likely to grow up into being the most amazing adults. And whether it's children we're actually interacting with or adults still acting like children, people transform through love, care, kindness, and respect. They don't transform from us projecting anger onto them, us projecting resentment or hate towards them, even if they're acting ridiculous. And a lot of times it's the thing people miss. People go, oh, this person's making my life miserable, so I can give it right back to them. It's like, well, if you do that, you're just attuning yourself to their energy, and you're becoming and you're acting the way that you say, I can't believe they're acting this way. And then you are now starting to act that way back at them. And that's crazy. And that leads to more hurt on the planet, which will take longer for everyone to heal. And if we can lead with kindness, love, and respect, we will find that more and more people remember their kindness, love, and respect and start to act that way. And if people are abusive, people are hurling insults at you, not someone you need to change, probably someone you need to just honor your own boundary of, this isn't serving my heart. Sorry, this relationship's over, or I gotta go. We can try again next week. Or if it's happened multiple times, I think this might just be the end of us knowing each other, right? That's a boundary. That's honoring your heart, and what honors your heart honors the hearts of all. And I've talked about this like a couple of videos ago, but when people rub me the wrong way, instead of instead of listening to my judgments of them or talking about how awful they are. And sometimes we need to do that a little, but if we find ourselves doing that every day for a month, it might be something to look at a little deeper. And when I feel judgments towards someone, or I feel like I can't believe they did this, I just go, angels, please heal this person. There, and the karma in praying for someone's healing is they have to face their pain. And if there's someone that lives to avoid their pain, or lives to avoid the negativity they feel about themselves or others, they're going to really not like facing their pain. And that's like the master getting, that's like real masterful getting back at someone. Is like if they are living, avoiding their pain, and you are praying for their healing, all of a sudden the thing they want to do the least is the thing they have to do, and it's going to be painful and it's going to be uncomfortable, and they will become a better person because of it. But it's kind of like you getting back at them from God, from a God perspective. From a more loving, but also, it's gonna suck for them perspective. Um, and the other thing I wanted to talk about is like people a lot of times in spirituality, they talk about how this is a dream. Life is a dream. Life doesn't matter. None of this matters because it's all a dream. And I would say, even if you are watching a play, right? That play's made up, but does that play influence you? Do you think about that play the next day? Or even if you don't think about that play, you can think about it like eating a meal. And every meal you eat impacts your body, right? The nutrients you consume restores certain areas of your body. Certain fruits have different nutrients than other fruits. Certain vegetables are going to maybe will have a lot of calcium and they'll be better for your bones, or they'll have more amino acids and they'll be better for your muscles. And everything you consume influences you, and your experiences matter. Just because life, on some level, there's a time when nothing was created, doesn't mean that this life experience doesn't matter. Right? And people in Buddhism talk a lot, and Buddhism's great. Buddhism has a lot of like healthy perspectives, but they talk about like what you are is the nothingness within you. What you are is emptiness. And then people go, I am nothingness, and nothing and everything that I'm experiencing is an expression of that nothingness. Therefore, everything is nothing and nothing matters. And that's not actually the truth. The truth is there is a time when nothing was created, and you can think of that as the divine feminine, or the void space within you. And then there's a time where everything was created. And if you're in a body, you're currently experiencing the time when everything was created, and your experiences influence the light of your soul. And the light of your soul is a feeling that might feel empty, spacious, like nothing. But nothingness is really no thing, which means not a thing, not a concept, not an idea, not a fantasy or a thought, reality. That's what Buddhism is really pointing to, is you are a reality of light, and everything that is real is an experience you're having. And if you're experiencing something, then it's real and it matters because you matter, the light of your soul, while it is not necessarily harmed by what happens in your life, it is changed by the experiences you have. And every experience you have, whether it's a feeling, a thought, an outside experience, changes you. And as you are changed, since the one within you, the light within you is the light within all, it changes all. And your angels work your ass off to help the light within you continue to grow by continuing to be alive. And your angels work nonstop to make sure you don't die accidentally, right? All the close calls you've had in traffic, and you go, whoa, that was a really close call. Who made sure it was a close call? Your angels. Right? I had an experience where I was walking in Chicago and I was crossing the street on a street I don't normally walk in. And right as I was about to cross the street, another person shows up at the sidewalk and crosses with me. And I'm stepping in between these cars and I'm about to step into an empty lane, and the person next to me stops. And instead of thinking about the prayer I was saying as I was crossing the street, I go, why are they stopping? And I look and a car zooms by. That probably would have clobbered me if that person hadn't showed up at the exact moment I was going to cross the street and crossed with me. Who put that person there? My angels. And the universe makes sure that you're alive, while you're meant to be alive, and you die when you're meant to be dead. And that doesn't mean that your choices don't influence your life, right? The things you eat, how well you take care of your body is going to determine how short or how long you live, or at least your quality of life. And I've heard other people channel that you have actually 40 exit points in your life, depending on how you're doing. And your angels make sure you don't die in between one of those exit points. And why do they do that? Because the play of life, the dream of life, influences the light of your soul, helps your light of your soul grow and change every experience you go through, and it frickin' matters. Life matters. How you take care of your body, which determines how long you live, matters. How you treat other people and which will influence how little or long they live for, right? Like if we're super abusive and toxic and negative and project our anger out to others all the time, that's going to harm them. That will affect a big part of their life, and they will have to heal and recover from that. And that will probably take some years off, and that matters. How you treat people matters. How you treat others matters, because every experience you have changes the light that you are, which changes the whole of the universe you're in, the universe that every universe, by the experiences you have. But you can only be changed by the experiences if you are alive. And if you're doing things that are shortening your life, less of the light of your soul is going to be changed, which impacts the entire universe of universes. And it doesn't mean we need to get caught up in neuroticism of everything I do every day matters. I have to be completely perfect. You don't need to be perfect. Just try your best. Try your best and recognize if I'm trying to dissolve my ego and nothing matters, might be a perspective that needs to change. Might start to become, what if everything I do impacts the whole cosmos? And can I be a little bit more mindful and try my best to choose a little bit better, to talk to myself a little bit better, to love and talk to those around me, to be mindful of what's healthy and supportive for my body, what's healthy boundaries. And if I'm doing something that's more toxic than it is serving my well-being, can I do it less? And can I find something to replace that coping mechanism with something that's actually going to be self-care and still help me get through my day a little bit better? Like if we had a super hard work day and we get home and go, I just want to smoke weed and numb and check out. What if we took a bath instead? Right? What if we did something that's nurturing, caring, helps us feel our feelings? Or if we just want to scream at someone, what if we scream at them in our journal rather than causing more hurt on this planet by screaming at them? And when we learn to treat life gently is when we really start to become masters on this planet, which masters is a master is I preserve my life and I do the best to help others find their way in preserving their own life or helping remind people of love, the kindness, respect they are. And when people feel loved, they're more likely to choose better. And even I was listening to Deepak Chopra on Instagram yesterday, and he was talking about a study of bunnies. And they were feeding these bunnies high cholesterol diets to see how it impacted the bunnies. And these bunnies had were like negatively impacted by the diet, except for one group of bunnies, or one group of bunny was impacted much less. And when they were investigating why this one group was impacted a lot less, instead of the vet tech just throwing the bowl in a food and the food in a bowl and letting the bunnies eat it, one vet tech with one certain group of bunnies would hold the bunnies, cuddle with them, and gently spoon feed them the food. And those bunnies showed a lot less side effects from their high cholesterol diet. And it doesn't mean we should be eating high cholesterol diets, but the more we love ourselves and the more we love those around us, the more we're going to be neutralizing the things that would normally be harmful for people. And it doesn't mean we continue to choose harmful things, but love impacts life because light, love, life is all one thing. And if you want to serve the light, start serving your life. Start serving your greatest well-being. Start loving those around you more. And more a light will awaken within you because awareness, consciousness, light, enlightenment is all about serving life, is all about serving your life, serving the life within others, and serving the love within your own heart by sharing it with others as much as you can. And the more you do that, the more you're going to be conscious, the more you're going to be a master, the more you will be enlightened out of your frickin' mind. And so everything matters. The choices you make matter. The words you say matter. And if we can lead with that, we will start to remember more and more of heaven on earth. And it's by taking care of the life we've been given and holding others gently rather than constantly trying to get something from others, constantly trying to use others to meet our desires or cravings, or constantly thinking that how I speak to others, the choices I make, don't make any difference in life. They matter. They matter. They have an impact. Karma does come back to you, and there's a million ways to pay off karma, but you do have to be responsible with the life you've been given, and there is a checks and balance system in the universe. And it doesn't mean all the negative things you chose are you're going to have to replay them out on the other side exactly how you played them out, but you will have to pay them back one way or another. And the more we can serve the well-being in our own hearts, the well-being in others, the less and less karma we will have. So I hope this helps. Thank you for listening.